incredible teams that provide care and save lives. And they don't just save lives, they change lives. And by doing that, it helps them continue, provide compassionate care, be inspired in the work that they do. And I want to share an inspiring story with all of you of just an incredible patient who came by our trauma center and left transformed. Cue up our video, please. Please enjoy.
Martial arts instructor and Navy veteran is showing gratitude toward the staff at Sharp Memorial. He lost his arm and nearly his life in a motorcycle crash last summer. In a story that's positively San Diego, we went back to the hospital to see how he thanked those who he says performed miracles. Here's ABC 10 News anchor Vanessa Van Hefty.
Maurice Orange came to Sharp Memorial Hospital today with a flood of emotions, overwhelmed by the people who brought him back to life.
After I say thank you, I may fall down, start crying. That, a new part of my new personality since I've survived the incident is that I'm much more emotional now, much more.
The karate Grandmaster Martial Artist credits his now wife and the staff here at Sharp.
I've known a lot of people to be in love with one another, but nothing could have prepared how much my wife loves me than my accident.
He doesn't remember the car that crashed into him on his motorcycle. He survived, but lost his memory. Doctors and nurses and his wife, Sherry, reminded him every single day for months. He never thought he would walk or talk, but he had an incentive.
Then I told the staff at the hospital, I said, guess what, guys? You gotta let me out because I'm getting married.
He would go through a year of grueling therapy and an amputated arm.
I now call the Bionic Grandmaster because that's my rank in the martial art that I'm in.
The Sharp medical staff says this is a reunion and a thanks they don't always see.
To see someone when you don't know what's going to happen, and those first few minutes are so critical. He very easily could be dead, and the fact that he's alive and made it to this point and came back to say a thank you to everyone is really amazing.
The angels who took care of him when he was in the hospital, they were there on the front lines with him, doing all they could do.
It gives us goosebumps. I mean, I've got him right now. It just makes us feel so blessed to be in this field and to be able to help people of our community when they need help.
Goosebump moments for everyone here, grateful beyond words.
Our extraordinary medical director of our trauma program, Dr. Diane Wintz.
Well, that's a hard video to follow, but I'll try. I'd like to thank the Sharp Healthcare Foundation for this event, which is by far my favorite workday of the year, and acknowledge the golfers, many of whom are sponsors and patrons of the Sharp Distinguished Corporate Partner Program. For those of you who didn't visit the tequila hole, shame, but you didn't get to meet me, Josh McCabe, Imelda, we are all part of a very large team of people who give our lives, our time, our education to provide the care through the Trauma Division and Emergency Department. The Cushman Emergency Department and Trauma Center encounters more than 3,000 trauma patients every year, and we are the largest trauma center in San Diego County by volume. We extend all the way to the mountains in the east and down to the US-Mexico border at the south. And we see all types of injuries, including a robust geriatric population, blunt and penetrating trauma. Sharp Memorial Hospital, that physical structure that you see that we just showed on the video at the Genesee exit on the 163, for me, that hospital is where my colleagues and I save lives, where new life is brought into the world, where we share grief, and where we experience miracles. The technology, program development, and comprehensive care packages that are delivered to hundreds of thousands of patients every year could not occur without a physical structure. Innovation simply doesn't thrive without a space to grow. Funding through the Sharp Healthcare Foundation, including the proceeds generously gifted by all of you through this annual golf tournament, supported physician and staff projects, programs, and growth for the last decade. But more recently during COVID-19, which on a personal note threatened all of us with a loss of enthusiasm and potential for burnout to a degree never before experienced. It may have been one of the greatest threats to healthcare during our lifetimes. But now that we're on the downslide, we understand our own resiliency and perseverance to such a challenge. Tonight, we have a very special presentation. I'm so very proud to spend the evening honoring one of our trauma survivors, Maurice Orange. I live and breathe trauma. It's my favorite thing, and I love my job. But the main reason that I love it and where the passion comes from is the survivors. Maurice arrived at our hospital on August 14th of 2020 after being involved in a motorcycle accident. He was injured at the height of COVID pandemic and therefore was alone in the ICU and without continuous visitation. He had 36 separate injuries documented. He was critically ill. He was unstable. And I spoke to his then fiance, Sherry, on the phone. They weren't even married yet, and she was being asked to make life and death decisions on his behalf. And I told her that even if Maurice survived, he was likely to have significant neurologic and physical deficits, and he would not be the person she knew before, and she should be prepared. He was in our ICU for 2 weeks, and as we cared for him and supported his family during this difficult time, we also learned about him as an individual, and he is beyond amazing. He's a grandmaster in martial arts and a pillar of his community. Prior to his traumatic injury, he was instrumental in advising and mentoring at-risk children and teens, often being that support person, giving those children a tangible reason to convert to a productive and self-sustaining pathway. He's a Navy veteran and now a trauma survivor. In February of 2021, just 6 months after his injury, I received an email from one of our ICU nurses, and I'm going to read it to you. She wrote, "I got an amazing phone call from the wife of a previous patient to let us know how he's doing. I think you will remember Maurice Orange. He was also known as Grandmaster Orange. He had pictures in his room with all the kids. He taught Taekwondo, and he was a really inspirational person who dedicated his life to teaching children and being a positive role model for them. He was a trauma patient who had a terrible motorcycle accident 6 months ago. I believe when he left our unit for long-term care, he was minimally responsive. Now he's walking, back in the dojo, doing physical therapy and thriving. Sherry, his wife, sent me 3 videos to share with everyone, and I have attached them. I hope watching these videos brightens your day as much as it did mine. It's moments like these that help us persevere through so much loss that we've seen this past year." And I got to the end of that email and I clicked the videos, and it was just tears, because this was a miraculous recovery to which I was able to contribute and see the success in recovery from such a severe injury, not just me, but also the entire team, hundreds of people that contributed. We've invited Grandmaster, an absolute powerhouse, Maurice Orange, to talk to us about resiliency and recovery in body and mind, as well as how he stays motivated and motivates others. He had to learn to walk again. He rehabilitated through comprehensive brain and physical injuries. His recovery has been a testament to his own perseverance, and his journey through life is to be emulated. Please help me welcome this amazing man, Maurice Orange, to the podium, accompanied by his wife, Sherry.
Thank you, everyone. I'm that guy that they're talking about. Now, as I was just sitting there, my early days in San Diego, I was stationed at the old Balboa Hospital in the ear, nose, and throat department, where I did clinical, ER, and OR work. 44 years ago, I worked the PSA crash in North Park. And so I've been a member of a team for a very, very, very long time. I want to thank the sponsors for everything they do for Sharp Memorial Hospital, Trauma Services, which in return, along with the emergency and trauma department physicians and caregivers at Sharp Hospital. Let's talk about the circumstances that caused me to be an inmate at Sharp Hospital. My martial arts van was in the shop, and I wanted to go down and check on it to see what had taken place. And my only other transportation was a Honda Goldwing. And those of you who know Honda know that it's a big bike, fully dressed, blah, blah, blah. I'm not a speedster by any stretch of the imagination. In fact, as I was hit by the car, I was doing about 35 miles an hour in El Cajon. That's all I remember. I don't remember anything about the accident. I don't remember anything about the ambulance call. I don't remember anything about the police showing up or anything. It was just lights out. About 4 months and 3 hospitals later, I returned home to my fiance. Oh my gosh. And 2 weeks after that, we got married. I was in a wheelchair at the time. Now, as a young man back in the 1970s, I served in Navy hospitals, both in San Diego and in Guam. From time to time, I drove an ambulance. And in fact, after my incident, I had a brief conversation with the ambulance driver because I wanted to thank him for all he did that day. And he said, "Sir, you don't have to thank me. I was just doing my job." And I said, "Sir, you were doing more than your job, because there was a time in my life that I was an ambulance driver, and had I happened upon someone with my injuries, they would have passed on. And I wanted to thank him for everything that he did." When I got to Sharp Hospital, I was in a coma, sedated, and I don't remember much about my stay at the hospital. One of the first physicians that came to my rescue was Dr. Wintz. Today is the first time I've ever laid eyes on her. It's been 2 years and 2 months. And I laid eyes on her today for the first time. And I was able to thank her and her services and her compassion today for the first time. Now, the lady next to me is one that said "I do" when the time came. And she kept a journal of my activities from day to day. Not only did she do that, she went to the martial arts school every day to make sure it was open on time, the students showed up on time, the staff was paid on time, the rent was paid on time, and it continued to grow. And I'd like to thank my wife Sherry for that. the first time I went back to the martial arts school, I was in a wheelchair and I wasn't quite sure what was going on. And through so many therapies, I've gone to over 500 doctor's appointments in the past 2 years. This is my driver to every single appointment. I can't say how much I appreciate this moment and these people. I've been in martial arts for 54 years. So to say I'm a grandmaster is an understatement. I can't imagine not being in service of my community and in service of the children and the young adults in my community, because that's what I'm all about. Now I've done other things, not golfing. Golfing is something that has eluded me. As a pilot, I've flown over many golf courses. So you should know I've been watching you from a distance. But I really enjoy flying. I really enjoy photography. I really enjoy cooking. And those are all things that I thought I would have to say goodbye to. But I didn't. And I still enjoy those things today. Once again, I want to thank Dr. Wintz and her team and the team that surrounds Sharp Medical Centers. I think my wife wants to say a few words. I teach class all the time, so I'm used to yelling and screaming and having an audience. But she wants to say a few words as well. And it's okay if you shoot her with a Nikon. I'm a Sony shooter myself. Canon. But anyway, she'd like to say a few things. This is Sherry Orange. Orange is our real last name.
Well, on the first night that I arrived to visit Maurice in the ICU, I had to suit up wearing full PPE, including the shield and the garment, and I had to go through a double sliding vacuum door, and the whole thing was very eerie and surreal and scary. And at that time I didn't know whether he was going to live or die. He was completely connected to tubes and hoses and machines and monitors, and everywhere. I could barely see any of his skin because he was completely overtaken by machinery. And Mario, one of the angels who escorted me in and out of the ICU room that night, he told me that it was helpful to bring in photos and cards to place around Maurice's room. So the next day, Maurice's SICU room became a shrine dedicated to bringing him home. And I brought a lot of cards from the martial arts school and letters from his students, photos. He was completely he was in a coma for 3 weeks, and so he didn't know anything I brought in. I even brought his wood-brimmed hat, fedora, and I placed it in the room, telling the doctors and nurses that this is what he was going to wear when he got out of the hospital and we go to brunch again. This is his brunch hat. I think they just thought that I was a crazy woman. And I had no idea how long the journey would be or how it would end. In spite of that, I was determined to do all that I could to help him thrive again. And thanks to doctors like Dr. Wintz, who I, for the first time today, met face-to-face, because this all happened during COVID. We had one of the most harrowing conversations of my life over the telephone, and I clearly remember her words echoing and ringing in my head, how he may never be the same again, even if he did survive. And so on it went. After 4 months in 3 different hospitals, Maurice was able to come home on December 1st, 2020. And I can't state enough, if you've ever had a loved one in the ICU nurses are angels in comfortable shoes. Andrea and Carol and Ina, I remember these ladies just like it was yesterday. Dave and Calvin, Dave, the respiratory therapist, has since retired. We did the happy dance one day after Maurice had a big turnaround. We were playing some of his favorite music, and I was talking to him, and the doctors were still trying to save him and spread out his surgeries so that he could handle everything. And he said it was like a light switched overnight. Thank you also to Dr. Hamill and Dr. Cage, Dr. Qureshi, and Dr. Upal were his initial surgeons as well. He had 5 different types of surgeries. Now, 2 years later, we're still going to rehabilitation at Sharp, and the therapists there are great. We've seen the construction of the parking lot because we now have to use the valet parking, and we really appreciate and want to recognize, just thank you for anything you can do to help support the Sharp Trauma and ER, and thank you for having us come.
About the awards, that concludes the program. What about that? Maurice, Sherry, let's thank them again. But I thank all of you, all of our partners, all of our physicians, our surgeons, our nurses, our technicians, everybody, the administrators. It all is part of what we do to make a difference in the lives of people in our community. And that's why we are here today, not just to have a great day of golf, but to make a difference in people's lives. What a great thing. So, but now, we got Trisha Kaligi's here and Tim Smith, so they're going to help me. I'll read the awards. They're going to help pass them out. It's award time. Okay. I think the first thing we're supposed to do here is draw a name.
The VIP raffle.
This is the VIP raffle. Give them the bucket. They can pull out the number. This is the VI. So get your number out of your little ticket, little yellow ticket, right?
If I pick you, you have to share.
That's right.
Okay.
Got a number there?
I do. It's
000633. Do we have a winner?
We do.
It looks like we have a winner. Congrats.
Oh,
Man, got the hockey stick and everything. Look at that. It's the tickets to the goals and all of that. Yeah, the Bay Hotel.